Hi everyone, and welcome back to the MFT YouTube channel. It's Karolyn here, and I'm super excited to share another interactive card process video with you. It features the new Meet in the Middle Die-namics, the set of interactive dies that came with this month's Let's Toast with a Twist card kit. It took a little bit of work, but I'm pretty excited to show you the end result. Let's get to work. Okay, so the Meet in the Middle Die-namics include all of the dies that you'll need to create an interactive mechanism that draws two things towards the middle. We'll be using all the dies except the smallest of the linkage dies. Besides the Meet in the Middle Die-namics, we'll be using the Puppy Love Die-namics, the Grassy Fields Die-namics, the Tag Builder Blueprint 7 Die-namics, the Wood Plank Background Stamp, and the new Best Friend stamp set. I die cut all of the Meet in the Middle dies from smooth white cardstock, and I cut two pull tabs so that I could double them up for stability. I'm adhering them together here with tape runner adhesive. I also die cut two each of the largest and middle-sized linkages for our mechanism. And I die cut what I call the collar from some printer paper. My friend Laura calls this the sleeve. Either way, it's what keeps the pull tab in alignment without the bulk of foam tape adhesive. Here, I'm folding the collar on the pre-scored lines, and I'm adhering the flaps together with some liquid adhesive. I'll just set that aside until we're ready to assemble the mechanism and give it a chance to dry. Next, I'm using some glossy accents to adhere four of the circles with holes together. For ease and reference, I'll call these the donuts. And once I've adhered four together, I'll do the same with the other four donuts. We'll use these to protect the rotating brad in the mechanism, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We'll talk more about that later on in the video. To keep the focus on the how-to of the mechanism, I've done all of the die cutting, stamping, and some assembly off camera. Here, I die cut the pieces of the Puppy Love Die-namics from milk chocolate and black licorice cardstock, and I've assembled the body and the head. I'm adhering them together with foam squares at the puppy's neck. Once the puppy is assembled, I need to position the other components of the card front in order to determine where the puppy will go. Once I have everything in place, I'll use a pencil to draw the outside of the puppy's head. And I do this because I want to hide any part of the mechanism behind the puppy's head. We'll use that position to place the circle dies from the Meet in the Middle Die-namics inside those lines, near where the puppy's ears will be located. I'll use some washi tape to hold the dies in place, and I'll run them through my die cutting machine off camera. I trimmed another white panel the same size as the first panel, which is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. This is the panel that we'll assemble the mechanism on. The first panel is where we'll create our scene, but in order to know where to position the mechanism on the second panel, I need to trace the holes from the first panel onto the second panel. I've placed a pencil mark in the center of the traced holes, and I'm using a long reach 1/16 inch hole punch to punch those holes. You could use a paper piercer if you don't have a 1/16 inch hole punch. I'll use those traced holes to position the assembled linkages. And I'm not going to lie, it was figuring out this part of the mechanism that took the longest amount of time. But once I understood how the moving parts of the mechanism worked, it came together quite easily. So I'll start by positioning the pull tab between these two traced holes. I've adhered some strong double-sided tape to the collar that we created earlier, and I'll slide that onto the pull tab and adhere it to the mechanism panel. Again, this collar will keep the pull tab aligned. I want the pull tab to be centered between those two traced holes, so it takes me a bit to get it positioned just right. I'm adding a slim piece of foam tape above the top of the pull tab to act as a stopper. I want the bottom of the pull tab to extend beyond the bottom of the mechanism panel by 1/4 inch, so the stopper will keep it from going in too far. Now I'm taking one of the large and one of the medium linkage die cuts, and I'll adhere them together with a small brad. Because the assembled linkage pieces will be located so close to the pull tab, I found that placing the brad on the back of the linkage kept them from getting caught up in the pull tab. I'll do the same thing with the other medium and large linkage die cuts, positioning them so that the holes are aligned on one end and placing the brad through the holes on the back of the linkage pieces. And if I'm being honest, this part of the mechanism was all done by trial and error. I'm not an engineer, so understanding how this all worked was a major effort on my part, but I was determined to get it figured out, and I'm happy to say I did. I'm hoping that you'll be able to follow along and do this with me, so that once you understand it, you can take these steps and use them on your own. Okay, so the hole at the end of the medium linkage piece is what we need to attach to the mechanism panel. in the center of our traced holes. I'll use a brad with a smaller head for this, and you'll see why in just a minute. I'll push that brad through the 2 holes and bend the prongs to secure it. I'll do the exact same thing with the other assembled linkage piece. And again, the logic of how this all works together became clearer and clearer with every step. So please just hang in there with me because I totally believe that anyone can do this. Okay, so now that our linkages are attached to the mechanism panel, it's time to attach the other ends of the linkages to the pull tab. This is where all the magic happens. I just showed you the 2 different kinds of brads that I used for reference. If you need a source for these brads, be sure and leave me a comment below and I'll do my best to get you that information. I overlapped the holes of the 2 loose ends of the large linkage pieces and centered them onto the pull tab. I made a pencil mark through the hole and used my 1/16 inch hole punch to punch the hole. Again, you can use a paper piercer instead if that's what you have on hand. I'll slide the pull tab back into the collar. I'll align the holes and adhere the pull tab and the linkage pieces together with another brad, pushing it through the hole and bending the prongs on the back of the pull tab. You can see that I'm working with a pretty tight space, so getting my big fat fingers in behind that pull tab and trying to align all of the holes to get that brad through takes some maneuvering. Again, patience is a virtue here. Once the prongs are bent behind the pull tab, the hard part is done. We're almost ready to start assembling the rest of our card. And you can see that when I pull on that tab, there's the movement. Now we're in business. I've placed foam squares on the back of the panel where we'll create our scene. But as you can see from this still shot, I broke the golden rule of interactive card making. I placed adhesive on top of the pull tab. Ugh, please don't do this on your card. In the interest of keeping it real, I wanted to show you that even the most seasoned card makers make critical mistakes. But this was easily solved by just removing that foam square. Here, I'm adding some liquid adhesive to the back of one of our donut holes, and I'll adhere that through the hole and around the head of the center brad. I'll do the exact same thing with the other donut on the right side. The point of using these donuts around the brad is so that the brad can still rotate if you add your moving parts to the donuts. And now we can assemble our card. I'm using tape runner adhesive to the back of the doghouse, and I'll adhere that to the front panel. I'll add more tape runner adhesive to the back of the grass, and also adhere that on top of the doghouse. I want to add a little more dimension to the donuts so that I can attach the puppy's ears to them. So I've adhered a foam square on top of each of the donuts. There's still enough clearance between the foam square and the donut to allow the brads to move freely. I'm adhering the right ear to the right foam square, and I'm positioning it where I want it when the pull tab isn't pulled. Once I get the puppy's ear in place, I'll put the release paper back in place so nothing sticks to it once everything is assembled. And I'll do the exact same thing on the left side with the left ear. And if you've made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. I realize that this video is longer than normal, but I so wanted to show you as much detail as I possibly could so that you too can create these fun interactive cards. Okay, so now that I've fixed my stupid adhesive error, you can see that the puppy's ears move exactly how I want them to when I pull on the pull tab. Hallelujah! I've placed foam squares on the back of the rest of the puppy, and I'll adhere it to the front of the card using the pencil lines for a guide. And one more check of the mechanism shows that I didn't make the same adhesive mistake twice. So now I can adhere the assembled image panel to a cement gray card base that measures 4 1/4 inches by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2 inches, and folded in the middle. I've added foam squares to the back of the image panel for dimension and to make sure that the brads have enough clearance to move. I stamped a sentiment from the new Best Friend stamp set onto some black licorice cardstock using Sweet Tooth pigment ink, and I die cut it using the banner die from the Tag Builder Blueprint 7 Die-namics. I folded the banner on the provided score lines, and I'm adhering it to the image panel with tape runner adhesive. For a final detail, I thought the puppy's eyes looked creepy without pupils, so I added some with my black Sharpie. He still looks a little creepy, but better. And there you have it, friends, a super fun interactive card using the new Meet in the Middle Die-namics. I hope you can see that these dies are super versatile and can be used in many different ways. Thank you so much for hanging in there and watching my video today. I hope you'll be inspired by it and give it a try for yourself. For more great content, be sure and subscribe to the MFT YouTube channel. And until next time, Have a great day.